Speaking of Washington Redskins of football and politics, who better to have on than former governor, former senator, and former candidate for senator, Virginia's very own Governor George Allen. Governor Allen, great to have you on with us. Back on the John Frederick Show. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's game day, John, and it's good to be with you and Steve. And I used to do picks for many years with Tony Mercurio in the Hampton Roads area, and it's good to see your analysis of the game. The key thing is win. Just win, baby, and it'll be a big, big game, and hopefully miracles will happen and the Redskins will win that game, and that's what's on most people's minds today. Obviously, it should be about a lot of things. The Redskins do matter in this especially here in Northern Virginia, but they have a lot of fans throughout Virginia, in the Richmond area, Roanoke area, Hampton Roads. We have a friend of ours coming up from Virginia Beach who'll go with me to the game tonight. Susan will watch at home. It's too late for our youngest daughter to get to school early in the morning. But at any rate, what we need to do is learn a little bit from the world of sports, and that is you compete in your team in intra-squad scrimmages. You stick together, and whoever ends up being the starter, the nominee, so to speak, you all work together for their success. And the key is to get in the political realm or public service realm is get others to join and become fans, so to speak, of your team because of your ideas. And in the midst of all of that, and I know you've been talking about all the nomination battles, you normally do not speak ill of your fellow teammates. Ronald Reagan, who is the one who motivated me to get involved in politics, called it the 11th commandment.
Yes.
Not speaking ill of a fellow Republican.
That's right.
But you work as a team and try to get more support for your efforts so then that you can govern and have, whether it's the state or your county or your country, winning.
Well, I think there's no question that the Reagan formula of a bigger tent, not speaking ill of other Republicans, that is in question today. And, we think a big part of it is there's a sharpening of rhetoric on the Republican side that although a lot of voting records are the same as far as being a conservative, when the rhetoric gets really sharpened to the extent that it's been with some of the more extreme, I don't know what you might call them, just more extreme in their dialogue, I think it has a tendency to diminish the base of the Republican Party as a whole, right?
Well, it can happen. A lot of times when you're in the intra-squad scrimmages or the primaries, you take 100 issues and all the candidates will agree on 99 out of 100, and even the one they disagree with, it may be just variation. So it gets into personality attacks and so forth, and some of that then can be used by the Democrats or the opposition against you in the general election. But I think that we do need to be a Big Ten party. I think it's a broad and diverse party. There's people who have different views on a variety of different issues, and every candidate ought to run his or her own campaign based on what ideas they want to run on. And you've heard me speak many a times, and Susan and I were at the Advance last weekend to express our gratitude, our heartfelt gratitude to the thousands of people who not that all of them were there, but many of the leaders were there who've worked with us through the years, and including this last 2-year campaign for the U.S. Senate. We're all disappointed with the outcome, but we count our blessings for the people who, and all the experiences and what you learn on the trail, and there'll be a day when we will, in my view, have a country that unleashes our plentiful energy resources to improve our quality of life and jobs and security and revenues without raising taxes. And so I've always said that anybody who uses electricity should be on our side. Anybody who drives a car, anybody who pays taxes, anyone who would want a job should be on our side, or anyone who cares about their children and the future of their family should be on our side. So I figured the target group should be about 100% of the people, and then we have to explain how at the kitchen table our ideas, our initiatives, our reforms will improve their opportunities.
Senator Allen, In regards to the response you got to your speech at the Republican advance, were you surprised that many people did not want that to be your sunset ride speech, your last hurrah speech?
Oh, I suppose so. And, there's folks say want me to run for something, or Susan to run for various offices. Right now, we're just very grateful, and I don't intend to be running for public office. As long as I'm breathing, though, Steve, I'm going to be advocating ideas. In fact, I quoted Martin Luther King, a quote that somebody had sent me, which I thought was appropriate, that life begins to end when we remain silent about things that matter. And so long as I'm breathing, I'm going to be advocating ideas, reforms, solutions, and a variety of issues, helping out candidates who are good people who we think are important for our communities, our Commonwealth, and our country. So I'll stay involved, but it's going to be in the private sector, and I'll continue to advocate for the aspirations of the people of Virginia.
Well, look, Governor, one thing we have to say is we thought that you handled the election outcome for yourself on November 6th with absolute class, and we were very, very impressed with that, but shouldn't be surprised by it. You're a classy guy, although you have said that politically you might right now be at the end of the line for some time. I got to tell you, we have had your wife, Susan, on our show many times. I've become a great fan of Susan's in a lot of areas, and you mentioned that she might be interested in running for political office. I think she'd be a dynamo candidate for just about anything. She's articulate, she's passionate, her IQ is off the charts. You can sit and have a conversation with her on any topic. She's inclusive. What's the potential political future for Susan Allen, coupled with the fact that she has her own theme song here on the John Frederick Show? Not everybody has that.
Susan and I were driving home from Virginia Beach, and we were very grateful for all the wonderful support and prayers and encouragement from so many folks. That I said, well, I was talking to this fella, Steve Ray. I'm going to be on that show on 8:10, and she's telling me some song that they had, and I said, well, that's good, dear, that's a great song, and so forth. So we'll see down the road. Right now, what we're doing is getting ready for Christmas, and running for office for the last 2 years. Susan and I put everything we had, our heart and soul,
I know you did,
to this campaign. We ran on our blueprint for America's comeback, and I still think those are good ideas to get our country moving in the right direction, and so we'll see what happens on down the road. I'll let Susan make those determinations, not make an announcement one way or the other. That's what we're looking for right now, is a Redskins win tonight, and then beyond that, a blessed Christmas for our family and a happy, healthy New Year.
Well, listen, GA2, as you look at tonight's Redskins-Giants game, do you hearken back to the days at your father's house, which out in Great Falls was painted such a horrendous color of burgundy and a yellowish gold?
No, it was not painted. It was a brick house. When you first told me this, I lived in a log house, but anyway, that in Albemarle. But
the yellowish gold trim kind of made it, into Redskin colors.
Gold. My father obviously. It's a beautiful house. It's still standing. It's a brick house. It wasn't painted. So, at any rate, it may have some hint of burgundy in the mortar and the bricks with it. And bricks are kind of burgundy colored as well. And obviously, I do think of those days and think of my father every single day.
I would think he would be most proud of you, George. Honest to goodness.
Well, my father and mother raised all of us to be competitors, to fight for what we believe in, and also care most about our family. And so I'm very blessed. And one of the things you mentioned, Susan, one of the greatest blessings, truly the best blessing in my life, is the love of my life, Susan, who worked so hard trying to share our positive vision all across Virginia. And I remember they had buttons. They were made up originally when I was running for governor, vote for Susan Allen's husband. So the problem is later years they put pictures of me in it as well as Susan. So they just sort of had Susan's picture.
I always said, Governor, during the campaign, there was one thing that me, you, and Tim Kaine had in common, and that was we all married up. No question with that one.
Susan and I still believe in an American dream, and we're very, very grateful for a lot of friends. And I just urge all the folks who share our common sense Jeffersonian conservative principles of trusting free people and free enterprise, and don't limit people if they're not harming someone else. You got to keep the faith. Try to be positive in your efforts, and always stay strong for freedom.
Okay, for those just joining us, we're talking with former Virginia Governor George Allen, former Senator George Allen. The withdrawal of the gubernatorial race on the nomination side, Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling dropping out, we thought that was a blow to just the party as a whole, because on the surface, certainly the lieutenant governor, two-time lieutenant governor, an articulate, passionate, bona fide conservative, had the backing of one of the most popular governors right now in the United States, Bob McDonnell, and also the backing of the endorsement of the United States Majority Leader Eric Cantor. He was well-funded, and he found himself in an untenable position with this convention where he didn't think he could compete. You know, you look at this and you say, a guy of this stature, do you think the convention was the right way to go for the GOP of Virginia, or would they been able to get more people involved with a more of an open primary system?
Well, obviously in a primary, there's many more people involved, and winning. I've been nominated both ways. In the governor's race, we had a convention that has about 14,000 people. This was back in 1993. We had a contested nomination for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general that year, and then I've been nominated by primaries as well. The value of primaries is much of what you do in a primary is helpful for the general election. You're organizing for an election approach, but it's up to the state central committee to do it. They did switch their approach with it. Lieutenant Governor Bolling made an assessment, and I think it was a very realistic assessment, that what you'd have to do to win in a convention is a different sort of an approach than for a broader electorate that you get in a primary, and I respect his decision. Ultimately, what will matter to the voters in this governor's race coming up will be the agenda of the candidates and what is their vision for Virginia with it. I assume that Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli will be our nominee. I assume that Terry McAuliffe will be the Democrats' nominee. He will be a formidable candidate. I'm not sure how well versed he is in all of Virginia as opposed to Ken, but it also, you mentioned Bob McDonnell. I think to some extent governor's races are a reflection on the job of the existing governor, and I think the fact that Bob McDonnell is doing such an outstanding job as governor will help out our nominee for it. So, the methods, the process, all of that matters within the Republican Party. For the general population, the voters who wouldn't get involved in a convention, ultimately what will matter is who has the best vision to make sure that someone in their family, in their schools, in their communities have the same sort of desires, the same sort of motivations, the same sentiments.